Hello and welcome back to the Scenario 7 podcast. I'm Sam and I'm joined by my lovely co-hosts Josh Bacon and Joe Roberts. How you guys doing?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, I'm doing good.
That's great to hear. And this week, or not this week, this episode, we're previewing the Bahrain Grand Prix. The break is over. We're finally back this weekend in Bahrain. Guys, I know you're excited as I am, but what do you think of Bahrain as a track?
Well, personally, it's not one of my favourite tracks, but it's always good to be there. I only really enjoy turn one when everyone's just come off the start because everyone seems to spread out after that. But yeah, it's still a fun track to watch. But yeah, that's what I think.
I really don't like this track. I think it doesn't bring the best racing. I think it only brought the best racing when Rosberg and Hamilton were battling it out for the championship. Apart from that, it's been quite dismal. But I think last season, I think with the the other Bahrain layout I think made the track better, but it didn't really work very well. But yeah, I don't really like this track.
Yeah, fair enough. We've been racing in Bahrain since 2004. Maybe controversially, because all this time they've had this thing hanging over their head with this this awful human rights record. And some people have said that they should stop racing there because of that. I mean, this year racing in Saudi Arabia getting announced isn't exactly helping that. But yeah, do you think that their terrible human rights record should affect racing here?
I think how like Toto Wolff put it, I think last season that as long as you're promoting the values of F1, I think it's right to go to places that don't really have very good human rights records, because because Bahrain, I think, has improved massively in terms of human rights. It's still a long way to go, but I think getting these tracks these countries that have tracks have human rights issues, I think it is a perfect way of promoting the values of F1 and getting their human rights in their country better.
Yeah, I agree with Joe. You can certainly see some sort of progression in what the human rights since the start back in 2004 to now, especially with the Black Lives Matter movement that they all showed support for before each race, and then at the Bahrain GP itself. I don't think back in 2004 when it first started, if there was a crowd there, they would have probably booed or hissed during that. So there probably is a bit of progression, but yeah, I agree with Joe.
Sure. I mean, looking back, let's go on to some memories of Bahrain. I want to start. I mean, I've been a bit cheeky. I'm kind of talking about the Sakir Grand Prix. I mean, some of it's the same track. I know it's technically different because they raced in Bahrain twice, but I'm going to talk about the memories from the outer circuit because my man Sergio Perez, he got his first race win, and wow, that was one of my highlights of last year. I mean, winning his first race after start like at the end of the first lap, he's lost. He's been hit by Leclerc. You're thinking, I'm just there, race over. He's gonna, if he gets like 8th to 10th, it's been all right. Gets some good points, but no, he broke winning that race. He broke the record for the number of race starts before winning. 190 races before winning his first one. That's crazy, and he's deserved it. He's such a fantastic driver with a lot of ability, but he's not really had a team that have been able to give him a car that can really push him to that. I mean, Racing Point kind of did him this year. He's in a more competitive car at Red Bull, and we could hopefully see some more race wins. But that win all but secured him 4th in the drivers' standings. And yeah, one of the highlights of last year. I know it's not the kind of same track, but I just had to talk about it because wow, that memory was really special for me.
Yeah, and also if it wasn't for the previous race before the Sakir, it wasn't for their Racing Point's engine failure in the last few laps, he would have also got a podium in just the Bahrain Grand Prix as well. So he clearly likes the track. So I can see why you've chosen the Sakir Grand Prix, but I still don't agree that you should have chosen it. But yeah, you do you.
Yeah, no, it's just I had to choose it because of that. What are you guys? What are your guys' favorite memories, or just memories from this track?
It goes back. Well, Lewis Hamilton, I think, broke through the scene. I think he got a podium in 2007, or did he win it? I think he got a podium, and then moved to in Australia. Then moved to Bahrain, hit the back of Alonso, and then managed to I think move up positions into P4, even P3. And then you got the Toyotas getting pole. I think that was their first pole in their very long process of F1, spending loads of money like those. And then the financial crash happened, which then pulled them out of the sport. And then you got recently Leclerc heartbroken with an engine problem. And then there's been and then you got obviously the Hamilton and Rosberg phenomenal race that was. It gives you it kept you on the edge of your seat. But I think my one is definitely going back to 2009 with Toyota getting pole and then kind of bottling the strategy a bit, and then I think only Trulli got P3, and then Vettel got P2, and then Button, my man at the time, won it, and then that incredible season. So yeah, it's that one for me is one out the bunch because of the fact that Button won that championship that year. But yeah.
Yeah, Joe mentioned my fond memory of Bahrain there with the Hamilton Rosberg battle back in 2014. If you think back, that was the start of the hybrid era, so that was the start of the Mercedes dominance in effect. And when it was Hamilton Rosberg battling out the whole race, and I don't remember who was the team principal at the time, but they were saying I think they said something about if he didn't let them battle, then it wouldn't have been an F1 true experience, because it would have been just boring team orders, letting one go past and not actually battling. So it was good for them to let that happen. And then also it was Fernando Alonso was at Ferrari at the time, and he said in an interview, which is this is the second race of the season, and in the interview he said it's game over already. Mercedes are too far ahead after 2 races. And they basically just gave up after 2 races, which made it interesting. And then also, just for you, Sam, Sergio Perez managed to find himself on the podium for the first time with Force India. So, yeah, it was a good race all in all for me.
Yeah, what a race! I mean, Sergio Perez getting his first podium at Force India. It's momentous. I mean, what a driver! I need to stop talking about him. But moving on to this weekend, first race of the season, not Australia, as because of COVID being replaced with Bahrain. What are you thinking for this weekend? What are some things that you think are going to happen? Things we could look out for.
I honestly think that the Mercedes have to respond after the pretty much dismal testing. I think what team hits the ground running between Red Bull and Mercedes will end up winning the championship. I think just due to the fact if Red Bull are that team that are a slow burner and then start picking up at the end of the season, I think they're not going to catch Mercedes. But with the new regulation that came in this season with the floor, I think it has put Mercedes back a bit, but I still think Mercedes will win this race, and I think they're just sandbagging it just due to the fact that you can just put a lot of fuel in the car to make it unstable. But yeah, it's I think Mercedes do have to respond to the criticism in testing.
Do you think they will respond? Do you see them winning this race, or do you think it'll be Red Bull or someone else?
I would see Bottas winning it over Hamilton, as in just due to the fact I think Hamilton likes a very much specific car, and Bottas, I think I think the car caters towards him. it looks like it does because of the spins that Hamilton had in testing. So if Mercedes were going to win it, I think it would be Bottas.
Yeah, if you're carrying on from what Joe said, I think if Mercedes do bounce back from the terrible testing they had, I'm not sure if they'll bounce back fully to be completely dominant, but I think we'll see a five-way fight for pole position on Saturday. I can see the two Mercedes, obviously, and the two Red Bulls. But I can also see Daniel Ricciardo somehow showing what he can do in that McLaren and showing how good he is, and possibly fighting closely with them for the pole position on the first race weekend. But if Mercedes have been sandbagging and then just show up the true dominance this weekend, then they're obviously going to get pole position.
Yeah, I think we could see a Red Bull win here. I'm pretty confident that one of Verstappen or Perez, probably Verstappen, but after his heroics last year in Bahrain, you can't count him out. But I think Red Bull will probably carry their momentum on from testing. I know Mercedes were probably sandbagging, but they also did have issues. I don't think they could really fake that. So I think that Red Bull will win this race and will get an early lead in the constructors heading into the next race. Also in the grid, I think it could be an interesting dynamic with Sainz and Norris now at different teams. They'll be used to that. I think we could see a proper dogfight from them. So I think McLaren are faster, but I personally, I know Joe disagrees, but I think that Ferrari and McLaren will be close competitors. So I think that Sainz and Norris battle could certainly happen.
I can certainly see it happening, but there's a point that I think I'm going to make is that I don't think Sainz will make it into Q3. So even if he does or doesn't make it into Q3, they could still battle because you never know what's going to happen to Lando. He might not even make it into Q3 himself. But yeah, I can definitely see them battling as old teammates coming up in different cars. So I can see that.
I think Norris will overtake him comfortably. I just honestly see Ferrari struggling this weekend in all aspects. As in, again, the car doesn't look particularly stable. It's very inconsistent. The McLaren looks very quick. I think it's definitely looking the third best car at the moment based off testing. I kind of agree with Josh. Daniel Ricciardo might have a chance, but I think it would have to be due to the fact that Mercedes and Red Bull have issues. I don't really see Daniel Ricciardo getting pole, but I do see the point of him potentially. I don't think Perez will, just due to the fact it's a new team and the Red Bulls are generally the second car, generally the curse car that I like to call it, and it's going to be a very tough weekend for Ferrari. So going back to your point with Norris and Sainz, I don't think that will happen. I think probably happen under like safety car conditions if there is.
Yeah, talking about safety car, I don't know what I have this feeling this weekend we're going to get a first lap safety car. I know Bahrain isn't the track maybe known for safety car. Looking back to last year, we had a first lap red flag after the awful crash with Romain Grosjean. Thank goodness he's all right. Unfortunately, not in the sport this year, but I can see turn 1 and 2 a bit of people trying to shake off a bit of rustiness. First race of the year, they could have a bit too much confidence in the car. Might try and send it into turn 1 and 2. I think of a specific driver, Nikita Mazepin. He's known for his recklessness. Maybe he'll clean that up this year, knowing that if he makes a few mistakes, he could blow his chance in F1. But I can see maybe one of the new drivers, Mazepin, maybe even Sonoda, causing a collision. I think we could have a first lap safety car.
Yeah, I can definitely see someone outbrake themselves into the first corner, like just completely have too much confidence in the car and just completely miss the braking zone. But then, if following on from that, I think if if there are a safety car, I think both Hasses will DNF, and one of them will be the cause of a safety car, because that car just hasn't had any development, and they're both young with not any experience in F1. So I think if there is a safety car, it'll be caused by one of the Hasses.
Yeah, I completely agree with Josh. I don't think it'll be Mick Schumacher because I think I've got a wise head for a very young man. But I think Mazepin will I think he will be the Danny Kvyat of F1, the new Danny Kvyat of F1. I think, he will do something to turn one, and then maybe into that little like kink into the short straight. There could be something between maybe the Williams and the Alfa Romeo and Mazepin, but apart from he will have to go into a massive torpedo mode to get any of the midfield runners.
So you think that that Mazepin's going to take up Danny Kvyat's role as the torpedo?
Yeah,
that would be quality. I think we always need a torpedo in the sport. Someone who's just going to full send it into every corner, make the sport entertaining. Mentioned the Haas there. How do you think they're going to do? I mean, they're testing. They put some miles in, but still weren't looking great. They got two rookies in Schumacher and Mazepin, as we've mentioned. Do you even think that both cars will finish the race?
I honestly think they'll be very lucky to. I don't think is it the 80% rule they have in qualifying or some? No, is it? Or they've scrapped. I don't know if they scrapped that or not. If they've got a very, very likely chance of missing out on the percentage of, I can't remember what it's called, the percentage of time that you could be, I've forgot, or they'll just crash out during the race. They're going to be slow anyway, because the car looks ridiculously unstable, and just because of the Ferrari engine not really being developed that much. It's not going to go very well for Haas this weekend, I think.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I either think they're either both going to DNF, because you don't know what Mazepin's like, or they're just going to be so far last that there's going to be no one around them. It's just going to be one of those races where they're not going to be involved, not going to cause anything, so they're just going to do their own thing at the back of the grid, going as slowly as they like, just not affecting anything. So yeah, I can either see both DNFing or just both of them sitting at the back of the grid fighting each other, not really doing anything.
Yeah, we got two new teams this make their race debuts this weekend. In Alpine and Aston Martin. How do you think the new teams will do? I mean, Aston Martin have a great, I'd say a very good driver lineup in Sebastian Vettel and Lance Stroll, who I think is quite underrated. And if he can get rid of the mistakes, he'll be a good driver. And then Alpine have Fernando Alonso, the experienced head, and Esteban Ocon. How do you guys think those teams will fare in their first race?
You go.
I think Alpine are going to do very well, considering just Alonso's massive experience. I don't know about Ocon. I'm very unsure. He's a talented driver, but it just feels it's not working when, like, last couple of years with Renault and Racing Point. So, yeah, and then going on to Aston Martin, it depends how Vettel takes control of that car. I think he didn't really have a good year last year in the Ferrari. So if he finds a rhythm with that car, I think it'll be fine. And then Stroll, as you said, he's a very underrated driver, but does have, he is a bit of a, it does, I think if he improves his racecraft in some areas, I think he'll be a decent driver for them. But then there's, I think both of them will have a decent weekend. I do think the Aston Martin will finish behind the McLarens, and then it's just the Alpines. It's just a bit of a mystery depending on their pace.
I think I can see a bit of tension between the drivers at Alpine, because I think Ocon with his French connection to the French team and also being there longer, I think he'll probably see himself as the so-called number one driver. But then you've got Fernando Alonso, who comes in with a two-time world champion experience. He's been there for so long. He'll see himself as a number one driver. So they'll constantly be talking to their engineers, being like, "Why is he not letting me pass?" and so on and so on. So I can see a bit of tension that they've got to deal with there, which then affects the races overall. So I think Aston Martin will be ahead of them. Wasn't like agreeing with Joe, because they've got Sebastian Vettel, who, when he has confidence and has a car he trusts and likes, he will do well. You can see that in the Red Bull, because he obviously won 4 world champions. But then also Stroll. I think it depends on what mood he's in, how he turns up, because he was very. I think he was a bit up and down last year. Like he came Turkish Grand Prix, he qualified pole, but in the race he didn't have the best of races. He just kept slipping further and further down the field. So it depends on what mood he's in. But I still think Aston Martin will be ahead of Alpine.
Sure, I think that I think Esteban Ocon's an interesting driver because he's managed by Toto Wolff, the Mercedes team principal. So he clearly sees him, or when he became his manager, saw him as a potential Mercedes driver. But he's never really had a season where he's met those standards of maybe where he could potentially get a Mercedes seat. Do you think this could be his year that he shows everyone? I think it's a bit of an unknown, really. We did our predictions last week, and I don't think anyone predicted him too high necessarily. But do you think Bahrain he could show everyone what everyone's missing? Because I don't think we can really see or have seen. We've seen glimpses, but don't think we've seen a huge amount of what he's his full potential.
I think with Ocon, I think it's with some of these drivers, I think it's the defining year for them. I think that there's a lot of rumours with Pierre Gasly going to that Alpine team last season, just due to the fact, I think, from the F1 documentary on the Netflix, Drive to Survive, it sounds like he's kind of soon having enough of Red Bull, just due to the fact that I don't think he sees him being trusted by Horner and the Red Bull team. So I could see him going there if Ocon doesn't hit the ground running. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I think Ocon will do well this weekend, but I think the pressure is on him this season to perform, or he might get kicked out for Gasly or even their young drivers as well, because you got some in F2. I can't remember the names, but you got a couple in F2 that are pretty quick and very good drivers that could potentially fill the shoes of Ocon if he doesn't perform this season.
Yeah, it's difficult to predict. He definitely needs to prove himself this season to Toto Wolff and other teams. But with Fernando Alonso by his side, he could use that experience to then gain it for himself and understand how to make himself better in that car. But I'm not sure, because like I said earlier, there could be tension, there might not be. It could work perfectly, which is what they wanted to do. But there's, like Joe said, there's other drivers who I think have proved themselves to be better and more consistent than him that could possibly take his seat in the future. But yeah, at the moment it's too difficult. We'll have to wait and see maybe a few races. But yeah, he needs to just prove himself to the team and Toto Wolff first.
Yeah, I want to quickly talk about Yuki Sonoda. First race, he's not like Mazepin who's going to probably grab the headlines. But can you see first race in F1? there's a lot of pressure on him, a lot of eyes on him. Do you think you see him having a good race, getting a top 10? That I think the top 10 would be a good finish for him.
I can see him having a strong debut into F1. He showed his pace in day 3 of testing. It was probably low on his low fuel mode and stuff, but I think I can see him having a strong debut because that AlphaTauri, it looks. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird to explain. Sometimes it looks fast, sometimes it doesn't, but it's hard to predict. But with other teams around him probably scrapping, I can see possibly 1 or 2 in front of them DNFing or crashing out. So it's possible. It's possible for him to get top 10. I can see it because he's definitely got the racecraft to do it. But yeah, it's just difficult to predict.
Yeah, I do think Sonoda will get points at Bahrain. Again, there's a big pressure with him considering he's taken Alex Albon's potential seat from last season, because he's always gonna. It's kind of tell from last season that Alex was gonna leave Red Bull. So there's a lot of pressure due to the fact of the brutalness of Red Bull. This season will decide if Alex Albon gets the seat, depending on how Perez and Alex Albon performs. So, Yuki Sonoda is going to perform, but I do think he will have a very strong debut this race and this season.
Yeah, I really hope he does. I don't think there's anyone here. I don't think there's anyone in the world apart from Nikita Mazepin who doesn't like him. I mean, Nikita Mazepin may be going arms swinging at him, but he just seems like a really nice guy. He got his feet on the ground, and hopefully he does well. Coming towards the end of the podcast, talking about let's talk about our top 5. What are a few predictions? So top 5 this weekend during the race. Josh, who is your top 5?
So if you remember going back to the start of the podcast, I said 5 drivers to be fighting for pole. I think they will still be the top 5 at the end of the race. I know it's boring, but that's just kind of how this era has been. But yeah, if I'll tell you in order, I think Ricciardo's going to finish 5th. Even though McLaren are strong, I don't think he's going to have the same race pace or consistency as the Mercedes or Red Bulls. So I think he'll finish 5th. I've got Bottas to finish 4th. Probably a bit of a sketchy one with Joe there, but I think he's going to finish 4th because he just hasn't proved. I don't think he's proved himself in that Mercedes yet. He keeps slipping up. He keeps just falling behind. Hamilton, and then also in the Sakir Grand Prix last weekend, he got outperformed by Russell, who never even driven in that Mercedes car before. So I think he's going to come P4. And I think Perez is going to get his first podium on a race debut with Red Bull because his tyre management and the pace of that Red Bull is just going to get the edge over Bottas. There's going to be a scrap at the front between Hamilton and Verstappen, but I think Hamilton's going to come second and Verstappen's going to pip him to the win. But I think it's going to be a close one all race. They're going to be back and forth the whole race. So that's my top 5.
I think it'll be a close one. I don't think Perez will be in the top 5. I'm going to go for Norris, Ricciardo, P5 and P4, just due to the fact I think McLaren's have got a very quick pace, and again that Red Bull seat, second seat's always been a very dodgy one. So yeah, if that car becomes very unstable and not really liking to Perez, it could slow him down. And I see the McLarens just because they're just behind, a lot closer to the Red Bulls this season. I think they'll be able to overcome that just time difference. Then I'm going to go for Hamilton P3, just due to the fact I think he's uncomfortable with the car. And I'm going to go Max P2, just due to the fact I still got a feeling Mercedes have pace above them. And that's why I think Bottas will be P1. just due to the fact I think he usually has a very good start to the season, and then he just needs to keep that consistency up in order to win the Drivers' Championship. But I do think Bottas will win this weekend.
Yeah, I think that I'm going the opposite. I've got Bottas fifth. I think the Mercedes, I think they had issues in testing, and I'm not sure they're going to get all of them ironed out by the first race of the season. They probably will for the second, and they very well might prove me wrong. However, I don't think they were definitely sandbagging, but they also had a few issues, and I think that Bottas will come fifth and will struggle. Fourth, I've got another controversial pick, especially for Joe. I've got Leclerc in fourth. I think Ferrari are going to come out of the blocks flying. They've got a new power engine, and they're going to want to prove everyone wrong. And they're going to come for Leclerc's going to come fourth. I think if you're doing further back, Sainz would be much further back. But I think Leclerc is really good at getting the best out of the car. He's a fantastic driver, and I could see him in fourth. Third, I've got my man Sergio. I agree with Josh at that Sergio Perez. He's hopefully he's got experience in Bahrain of doing well. I mean, he won on the outer track, but he was on course for a podium if his car didn't blow up. And in the race Josh was talking about earlier, he also got first podium for Force India. So he's used to getting podium here, and he normally performs well around Bahrain. Second, Hamilton. Really, again, not sure about Mercedes' reliability, but Hamilton will push that car. He won't be happy, and we'll hear a lot of team radios complaining to Bono. But I think he'll still come second, even though he'll probably be like, I'm going to come last. And in first, last of all, I've got Max Verstappen. Red Bull, I think they're going to come out the blocks flying. Max Verstappen, he's used to the car. He's going to drive it really, really well. I think he's going to start on pole. I think he's going to finish first. I think it's going to be a dominant weekend from Red Bull. I think Mercedes will catch up in later weeks, but I think that Red Bull will start the season really well. And yeah, that's my top five, and I think that wraps up the podcast for this week. Thank you guys for watching or listening. Remember, we're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you want it, where you want to listen or watch us, we're probably on it. But yeah, thank you for watching. Comment below. What do you think is going to happen this weekend? What are your memories of Bahrain, and how much are you looking forward to finally the season getting underway? But yeah, let us know. Thank you for watching and listening. Thank you, Josh and Joe, for being here to give your insight on the Grand Prix this weekend.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. I just hope everyone enjoys the race because it's finally back. I've been waiting for ages, and we'll see you next week for another pod.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, thank you, and yeah, we'll see you next time. Enjoy the race this weekend.